interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
Yo, it's Remember the Show. Slick with the flows, where the sparring can go. Who's gonna be on, man, you never will know. Guess you better tune in, cause we live from Chicago. Belal Muhammad, that's the king of the tweets. Jason Anik looks like John, step his hands to his feet. Every Thursday, we gonna give you a treat. It's Remember the Show, hit play and repeat. And retweet, and retweet, and retweet. And retweet, it's Remember the Show, hit play and repeat.
That's right. Live from Miami, episode 96, Remember the Show. As always, we are presented by the Anik and Florian Podcast. My name is Jason Anik, joined as always by the number one welterweight contender. Yeah, I said it. Number one welterweight contender, Belal Muhammad. You're in Miami as well, cornering Ignacio Bahamondes. Nacho, you call him. We'll get to that later, but great to see you. Welcome to the great state of Florida, my brother.
What's up, brother? Man, yeah, I'm loving this heat down here. Chicago is like freezing right now. It's raining. It's like cold snow. I'm like, my coach, his flight got delayed like 5 times coming out of Chicago yesterday. So
really,
I'm like, I gotta hit the beach right now.
Well, you know, good place to run outside. You go for a little run middle of the day. I mean, middle of Ramadan, a run in Miami outside, you might have to consider, you know?
Bro, I literally went out for a walk with Gerald because he likes to go on walks when he's cutting weight.
That's right.
We went on like a 3-mile walk right now, and I'm like dripping sweat. I was like, man, I can't imagine running outside. I've been running at night though. The night breeze is really nice.
It's great. Well, you know, when I run in the middle of the day down here, I can drink water afterwards, which certainly helps, you know, a little disadvantage there. But dude, it's like a Muhammad party down here. You got GM3 on the card, certainly cornering Nacho. Jared Gordon lives down here. Your boy, he's coming through. It's like home away from home, I would think, for you in South Florida.
Yeah, it's definitely about to be like a little reunion party now. You're going to be down here. Jared's coming down right now. Brendan Allen's down here too. So
that's right.
Yeah, it's been fun seeing a lot of familiar faces and stuff. So it's been cool just to chill, especially when you're coming out of your regular routine and stuff in Chicago. So to be down here with all these guys. So it's been fun so far.
So how has Ramadan been for you this year?
Honestly, it's been amazing. It's just always one of those things where, you know, you try to sit there and focus on the more important things. The last couple of years, I've had fights that I had to train with and you know, think about other things as well. So spiritually, mentally, it's like, it's a good time for me, especially now, like being in my room right now. I haven't like been watching TV. I just been like, you know, reading the Quran and just like getting yourself in a different place. And when you're not eating and stuff, and I tell people all the time, it's not just about starving yourself from food. It's starving yourself from a lot of the negatives that you always put into your life, a lot of the negative stresses of life, the activities that you do all the time that you don't even think about. And then when they're out of your life, you're like, man, all right, I don't really need to do that. I don't need to do this every day. So it's a cool thing. It's like awakening.
I love it. So you had a meeting with Dana White last week. And I might have to wait till I'm in front of your face to find out what was actually said in said meeting, but you seem to emerge from it happy, which made me happy. So what can you tell us? I know there's probably not too much you can tell us, but you seem to be feeling better after that meeting than you were before. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, you know, it's always good to get FaceTime with the bosses and to hear what their mindsets are and why they're doing certain things. So it's like, it was cool. And they, you know, they get to hear what I want to do. And, you know, hopefully we're on the same track. And like I said, we're looking at ex-champion now. We're looking at Kamaru Usman. Hopefully we get that one. That one comes to fruition, hopefully in the summer. And that'll be like that big name that I think there's no denying after that. And there's nothing else anybody could say. But you never know. Every week something changes. Every week guys get hurt all the time in this sport. Guys pop up out of nowhere all in this sport. Like this fight this weekend, anything can happen with this. So, you know, I don't really guarantee anything until I get a contract in front of me.
I hear you. And we'll certainly get to the welterweight co-main event this weekend, most certainly. You know, but there were definitely times where you and I, as we talked about your career, you know, felt like, you know, finishing Sean Brady was that one more before the title fight, right? So I can tell you right now, if we felt like that before, I don't care who it is, whether it's Usman, whether it's Shavkat, whether it's Burns, Masvidal, Colby, I don't care who it is. Only one more, like, period.
Yeah.
Like I don't, and unless it's some super fight in the WWE, I know they've merged now. So fine. You're going to pay Muhammad a couple million to do that. Fine. Sorry.
Yeah. If they let you enter the Royal Rumble, I'll be okay with that. Or get the Money in the Bank thing. But yeah, hopefully that's all it takes. But like I said, there's nothing set in stone. Like even with the Kobe Leon fight, like I don't think it's said yet. We'll see one of these guys walking around the hallway right now, and as we're seeing with the clout chasers nowadays in the hotel rooms, if Leon comes in the hallway, we may have to throw some hands with him just to get a fight out of it.
I love it. All right, so we're here in Miami. This fight card's bananas. We're going to do 3 picks as we always do. There's some other fights I want to get into with you. I want to talk to you a little bit about you being cornering this weekend. So Cody, I know there's a lot happened in Miami. I don't know. Some shit, has gone down with Mosby. I don't even know what's gone on because I've been buried in my own work life. So let's get right into the picks and we'll spin it all from there. Dude, so before we get to the 3 fights we're going to pick. So GM3, what's this guy's name? Joe Pfeiffer, right? It's like, apparently this guy's got all, this guy's all the rage. And GM3, my brother was saying, Gerald has derailed some hype trains in the past. So I didn't look closely at this fight. No disrespect to his opponent, but Gerald, I'm sure, is the underdog again, right?
Yeah. They're giving Gerald all the hype trains. Like I don't think Gerald's had an easy fight in the UFC, and this is another guy where he came in off the Contender Series, and they're hyping him up a lot right now. And Gerald's like, oh, okay, I'll take another one of these guys out. And I think that I saw one of these interviews with this guy, and he was like saying, oh yeah, I'm better than Gerald everywhere. This guy's not gonna do nothing to me. It's like I'm gonna walk through him, and I'm like, he doesn't know how good GM3 is. And seeing GM3, he was just training downstairs yesterday. He looks good. He feels fast. He feels strong. So I'm excited to see it again for him to, finally get some respect, because people still don't understand how good he is. He has the most submissions in middleweight history. And I think the UFC doesn't realize how good he is, where they keep trying to feed in these up and comers. Like I think it's time for him to win this and get a ranked fight.
Well, and after the Chimaev loss, I think he's reeled off 4 out of 5 or whatever, but he's been so solid. But it's like when you take that type of fight, you're obviously going to have to build up after it. But he was on the Anik and Florian podcast this week and talking about being down in Florida sort of permanently and working with some bigger bodies. As we know, the MMA prime is very different than an NFL running back,
Yeah, it's going to suck to see him go because, it's always good having him coming down to Chicago training with me all the time. But yeah, I'll be making a trip out here. But yeah, seeing that he's going to be out here all the time now with all the bigger bodies at Sanford, he's going to have a full room of guys that are his size in his weight class, high level guys. And he's loving it down there with the heat and everything like that. So I'm excited for him. Like I said, one of the best guys that I've ever trained with. And now for him to finally be in a spot where he's going to have other guys that are his size, where he doesn't have to, go lighter or go lesser because he's not going to his good guys. So it's going to be good to see him and for other people to learn from him too, because I've learned so much from him. So the guys at Sanford, they got themselves a gem.
So you probably know better than me. Is he fighting after Nacho or before Nacho? Do you know?
He's fighting right after him. So it's Nacho first, and then it's Gerald right after.
So you'll probably be in the back, right? Watching.
Yeah. I'm gonna be out there the rest of the day. So like, we got tickets to the fight, so I'm gonna be over there.
All right.
Right after the fight, we're gonna be coming out to the crowd. The card's sick, so like I was like,
dude,
yeah, it is. Especially since both of them are fighting early, and just to seeing the rest of the card on there. So it's like their first time in Miami. I was like, bro, I got to get tickets and chill afterwards. So hopefully Nacho comes out safe, gets the W, and then we'll both be coming out to the crowd.
I love it. Well, if Belal Muhammad's in the crowd, for those working the cameras for the UFC, at the end of the welterweight fight, when one of those guys barking for a title shot, find the cameras, pan into the crowd. There's your guy in the crowd.
I'll be in the crowd giving freaking Kobe coming to the wedgie.
All right. So before we get into the 3 picks, I want to talk about Nacho, your guy, your cornering this weekend. And for those of you who haven't watched the show before, haven't heard, Belal gets more nervous cornering guys than for his own fights. Well documented there, right? I know this guy. He's 25 years old still, which is just bananas. But I want to ask you about his nickname, okay? You guys all call him Nacho, right? He doesn't get introduced as Nacho. La Jaula, right? Is that his nickname? La Jaula?
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Do you know what that means, La Haula?
No.
So I'm looking it up, and Cody, you might want to try. I'm looking up. There are some translations where it's like a cage or a bird cage. Then I saw something about a journey, but I assume Nacho is sort of a way where you don't have to pronounce his name, right? Is that sort of how Nacho evolved? But I mean, is Buffer going to say Nacho at some point? Is this going to stick? It's a good nickname.
Yeah, no, it is a good nickname. Like all of his friends are calling him Nacho, but like he's already using in his interviews La Haula 2.0 because it's been a while since his last fight. Because he had visa issues, so he was stuck in Chile for a little bit. So he's hungry, man. He's starving. He's getting better every single day. And like you said, he's only 25 years old. People seen his last 2 finishes. They were crazy finishes. He's had 3 amazing like finishes in the UFC, and he's only been in here for like 2 years. And like his highlight reel is just nuts. It's with one of the top guys in the UFC, honestly. So I think with this fight, it was tough because he had to take a short notice opponent last second. We were training for somebody else. His guy pulled out. Now he got a different opponent, but he's getting better anyway. And he wasn't really focused on any opponent. He's focused on just getting better himself. His grappling's getting so much better. His wrestling's getting so much better. And one of the best strikers I've ever gone with. So to see him here in Miami with all the Latinos in the crowd, it's going to be a huge moment for him. And this is the first time fighting in front of a crowd in the UFC. Like all of his fights have been in the Apex. So he's like, oh, this is going to be the first time I'm going to a real weigh-in, a real fans, everybody there. So it's going to be cool to see him experience that too.
We know everybody's different from an emotional standpoint as a fighter. So like that being said, knowing what he may walk into, do you discuss any of that? Like, hey, bro, you might feel different. Do you guys have any conversations like that? Because he is a young kid. Yeah,
no, exactly. For sure. I told him for the most part now, it's just like embracing the journey, always going every day, not always thinking about the results or this or that. It's like, you know, his brothers came down from Chile to watch this fight with them to come down here. And it's the first time here. So he has real people, real family here with him, supporting him. So I'm just telling him, like, embrace it. Don't sit there and just stress about it or have nerves or anything like that. And like I said, this kid is bulletproof. He knows what it is. For him, it's God's plan. God made everything happen for a reason. And our biggest thing was just like, he was getting stressed out. He's like, man, are they going to find me an opponent? Did I do all this work for nothing? I worked hard and everything like that. I'm like, bro, it's the UFC. They're going to find you somebody. Everybody's going to want to fight on this card. So for sure, they're going to have you an opponent. So don't worry about nothing. Stay focused, stay the course. And, you know, he did the right things the last couple of weeks, waiting for an opponent. We finally got one. So just happy that he's going to be able to show out Saturday night.
Let's go, Nacho. Get it done, kid. All right. So we're going to move on to the Bics, unless Cody wants to get in on this George Masvidal. Whatever happened, you want to get some take from Bully on that, Cody, or you want me to move right into the Bic, kid?
Yeah, well, of course. What kind of behind the scenes info do we get from the notorious welterweight contender, Belal Muhammad?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, like I was telling people, they're like, oh man, they're making a big deal out of it. I was like, bro, it's just 2 guys talking. For me, it was Kevin Holland's just been walking around the hotel, like mean mugging people, everybody. And I'm like, bro, like this kid is sitting there. I'm like, bro, he doesn't know that we're all fighters. Like, you don't have to have that attitude or that look on your face. Like you're trying to be hard. I'm like, everybody in this room is hard. Masvidal was super cool. We saw Masvidal, you know, there was no like animosity or anything. Our wrestling coach, he was there. He was giving a fist pound, and he's like, oh, Masvidal, look, I got Masvidal video. And I thought, oh, okay, cool. And then he's like, yeah, the other guy, he's not looking. He's giving me mean mug. And I was like, ooh. He's like, oh, Holland. And I was like, bro, he doesn't know that freaking the wrestling coach will pick him up and slam him through a wall right now. So I was like, relax, coach. He's like, yeah, he don't know. This is Dagestan. But, you know, Masvidal's walking around with 10 people in his entourage. I think Holland probably has like 4 or 5 people. So you're having 2 groups of guys that are probably just like mean mugging each other. And you're going to have tensions. So I like nothing really happened with it. I think for me, it was just Holland trying to get some clout or video chasing or somebody posting something or setting up a fight for later on if something happens. But yeah, there was nothing really serious.
All right, Cody, hopefully that scratches your itch on that. Let's move to the first fight we're going to talk about. This card is just stacked. Can't wait. But bantamweight division, bro, this fight, Rob Font, Adrian Yanez, like, wow. So Font number 6 now, Yanez number 12. Yanez the favorite here. So Font's last win almost 2 years ago versus Cody Garbrandt. So his ranking, I think, got up as high as 3. Coming off the back-to-back losses, Jose Aldo, Chito Vera. He'll be 36 in June. If he's going to make another run, got to be here. But the dog, and I know Rob Font's been on our show, Adrian Yan, but I consider Adrian Yan as like a friend of the program. You know what I mean? 5-0 in the big show. What a spot for this kid to take the number 6 ranking and inject himself into that crowded top up at bantamweight. Fascinated to hear your breakdown. Rob Font has been there. Different test for Yanez here. Who do you like?
Man, the boxing in this fight, I'm so excited for it. And also shout out to Adrian Yanez. I was at the gym yesterday working out, and I left my sunglasses in there. And I went upstairs. I was showering, and I look at my phone. There's a message from Giannis. He's like, "Hey, did you forget your sunglasses?" I'm like, "Oh man, my dude, appreciate you." So
right,
I was testing him out to make sure he wasn't a thief. But yeah, Giannis is the man for that one. Stylistically, I think it's gonna be nothing but freaking amazing boxing with 4-ounce gloves. Rob Font's very long. He has a good jab, but Giannis is so good, man. He understands distance very well. He's very good with his kicks. Font, like you said, he's coming off of 2 losses. He was doing well in those fights, but he's just gonna keep up the same pace with Chito Vera in the later rounds. But he started off really fast. He looked really good. He does have sneaky takedowns when he does shoot on guys, and he gets you thinking that he's gonna strike with them. Giannis, very good everywhere. He finishes all these guys. His countering, his boxing, he's really smooth in the inside boxing. I just think that he's the younger version of a Rob Font. He's younger, he's hungrier. This is a big moment for him, and I'm excited for it. I think that he's going to show out this weekend. He's got a big crowd behind him. I know he was trying to get on the Texas card, but I think, he'll settle for this Miami card.
Yeah, exactly.
On this pay-per-view. And for me, I think it's going to be Giannis. I don't know about a finish, but Rob Font's very tough. I think it'll be like a 3-round decision, but I think it is going to be back and forth. I don't think it's going to be a dominant decision. I think maybe the first round may go to Rob Font, the last 2 will go to Giannis, because Giannis does get hit a lot, and he'll come back from a lot of adversity. But this kid is tough.
Telling you, and in the fight with Font and Chito, it was clear that Chito's strikes were doing a lot more damage than Font's were. So we'll see what happens there. Cody, you got a pick? Are we going to see your face? You want to pick this one or what, kid? There he is.
I gotta abstain from this one. 2 former Remember the Show fighters. Rob Font is from New England. I'm not going to pick against New England kid, and I'm not going to pick against Adrian Yanez. So I think this one's going to go to a draw, to a decision. That's put the money in the draw.
Very interesting. So last week, Belal didn't pick the main event, Sandhagen, Chito, or might have been 2 weeks ago, but right. And so Cody don't want to ruffle any feathers with these 2 boys here, but it is a fascinating fight, man. So I get it.
No.
Yeah. And I literally saw Rob Font earlier yesterday too. He's such a cool dude. He was here with his baby too. So, you had to pick somebody, but I was like, man, Giannis gave my sunglasses back. So Giannis, I had to go with Giannis.
I love it.
Well, and Giannis got called out by BP on our last podcast. So to be on Remember the Show. So Brian Peachy versus Adrian Yanez coming soon to Remember the Show.
Brian said was calling him out all the time too. So yeah,
I like that.
That'll be a good match.
Well, Brian, who is Bronstetter going to call out that isn't punching down? I feel like every single person he calls out is going to be punching down in some way. It's like, who is on AB's level?
Elon Musk.
I'm telling you, though, with the right games and categories, I'm trying to Elon Musk. I'm trying to remember, but we've had some dominant players on this show. Anyway, Manel Kopp was sneaky good toward the end that couple weeks back. All right, moving on. Welterweight division, co-main event, Gilbert Burns, the 5th ranked welterweight, George Masvidal, number 11. Dude, this line is enormous. -450. That's what you have up on the board. So Gilbert Burns is an absolute beast. All right, he is. Dominant first-round win over Neil Magny last time out. I could argue he was as impressive in the loss to Chimaev, the fight prior to that. He definitely wants to stay active. I know both guys are going to call for the title shot in the ring after the fight. Don't even get me started on that. Masvidal hasn't won since he raised the BMF belt November 2nd, 2019. I think he has a lot to gain here. Not sure exactly what Burns has to gain here other than being active. Leon Edwards has mentioned Masvidal's name. He doesn't appear to want to fight Colby. I don't know to what extent that matters. I got more to say on this division. I hope Belal Muhammad is all over the cameras. Bully, who do you like?
Honestly, I think I'm going to go with the underdog here. I like Masvidal. I think this line is crazy. I think, he's on a 3-fight losing streak, but, 2 of those fights are to Usman. And I think the last fight, he almost finished Kobe. He was close with that hook, but I think he just fought emotional. And I think both those guys have way better wrestling than Gilbert Burns. Gilbert Burns doesn't have good wrestling. He does have good ground, but level of competition of who you were training with. The last fight, he was training for Neil Magny. Masvidal was training for Kobe Usman. So I think his wrestling defense will be on point. And he's always had pretty good wrestling defense. And we saw his submission defense when he fought Damian Maia. Damian Maia had his back, had him in really bad positioning. And he did well against Damian Maia in those spots. He didn't get tapped out. So I do think it'll be on the feet. I think it'll be a striking match for the most part. And Burns does get tired. He does gas out, and he does fight with a lot of emotion. And I think that, Masvidal hits him a little bit. The crowd starts booing Burns or because they're all going to be pro Masvidal. Maybe Burns wants to make it a striking war because he thinks it's a stand-up fight, to get the oohs and ahs. But I think Masvidal's going to end up catching him. I think Burns leaves a lot of openings because he does swing wild, swing big overhands, and he does get caught a lot. And we saw him get dropped a couple times against Chimaev. We saw him get dropped with a jab against Usman. And I do think that Masvidal does have better boxing than both those guys.
I like it. So, Bully, have you talked to anyone else that likes Masvidal as well in your circles? I'm not even asking you to name names. Are you on an island here, or are you talking to some people that like George as well?
No, I've talked to a couple of people down here in Vegas, a couple of reporters that are like agreeing with me when you explain it in that type of manner. But a lot of them are like, yeah, I just don't know if Masvidal has that hunger. But like I said, my coach was training with Yair 3 months ago in Mexico City, high altitude. And he said Masvidal was down there working out. He was like, man, does Masvidal have a fight? Because he's down here training up in high altitude. So he was working before he even had a Burns fight. So that tells me that he knows this is basically his last chance. This is his spot. Like, he loses this, that's 4 in a row. And what else is there for you? You're probably going to be done. There's no talking about bigger fights. Yo. Where you coming from, dog?
I can't hear you.
Oh.
I can't hear you guys. Just stop by to say hello and let you guys know full episodes of the Anik and Florian Podcast can be found on DraftKings YouTube channel. No, it is interesting. We have finally seen the price reflective of some of this sentiment for Jorge Masvidal, right? So minus 490, now minus 450 for Gilbert Burns, because I haven't found a single handicapper who doesn't think there's value on Jorge Masvidal, right? And 40 cents worth for just Miami alone, right? I mean, when this dude hits that tunnel. So I don't know. I mean, Gilbert Burns is completely fucking locked in and was with us today, but that's my 2 cents. That price is crazy still at plus 360. Have a great show, Bully. I'll see you tonight. Let's go.
My brother. Yeah, he made a good point. Like I said, I don't understand that line. And yeah, I seen Gilbert Burns, but he looks, man, seeing him in person, he's very small. And I think Masvidal looks big. He looks in shape. He looks like he has good energy, and crowd energy is a different thing, especially when you're in Miami, you're in your hometown, the whole card's revolved around you. I think that Masvidal is going to end up showing up.
Bone, you got a pick on this one?
Well, I think you have to go and look at the number with this one, right? I mean, minus 450, like, what's that implied win probability? 80%? So does Gilbert Burns win 80% of the fights against Jorge Masvidal? I don't think so. Does Jorge Masvidal go out there and lay a stinker in his backyard? I don't think so. Gilbert's the number one knock on Gilbert, and the reason that he's not a champion right now is fight IQ. If he had a higher fight IQ, he would have finished Kamaru Usman. He sat him down, did the wrong things in the moment. That's kind of been the knock on him his whole career. And now that he's up at 170, as you said, Belal, he's not a big guy. He's not going to come in at 170 and have a size advantage over many people. So when I look at this line, I just see Jorge Masvidal at plus 360. And for all the reasons you outlined, I think you have to go with Masvidal. You got to go with the dog. Minus 450 is a prohibitive price, I think, on Gilbert, especially because Jorge's back is against the wall. And also, who has more to gain from this fight? Jorge Masvidal 10 times. Gilbert can win this fight, and nobody's going to talk about him for a title shot except him. Jorge goes out there, wins this fight. It's guaranteed he's getting a title shot, period. All this talk about Kobe guaranteeing for a title shot is out the window, is it not?
No, yeah, for sure. Even for me, when I was coming up, I was like, the only person that could probably skip me is if they get a win is Masvidal, just because I know the UFC will want to do it. Like, I don't know where this Kobe thing came from, but it made no sense. But I'm hoping if Masvidal does win this, they let that happen, and then they give me Kobe. So regardless, some good thing may come from it. Even worse, but like I said, for me nowadays, it's like not thinking too hard about, man, I need this. Like, all right, let's just see what's next. Enjoy the journey.
Yeah, and I have to chime in here because it's like all these fights, it's none of my damn business, but all the fights above you do make sense. The ones below you don't. You know what I mean? I guess I don't need to say more than that, but I can find an argument for you fighting Colby, Usman, but Shavkat, I know it's none of my business, but I just don't see much for you to gain there. You already did that. Fought Sean Brady, knocked him out on his feet. Let's go.
Well, and how about Shavkat and Usman training? I mean, who are they training to fight? Like, they both can't beat Belal Muhammad. So, I mean, you may as well try and train together, right? But I do think, like, just want to double down on my point. So, obviously, the path to victory here is Gilbert wrestling and grappling with Jorge, right? When has Gilbert ever taken the smart path to victory? When he fought Chimaev, he went out there and did a slugfest for 15 minutes. I just don't see a world where he doesn't, like you said, Belal, like lay himself out there to get caught by something. And, Jorge's not going to go out there and let himself get wall installed like he did against Usman and Covington. I just don't see that happening. Obviously, he is putting in the grappling work. And if he's training at high altitude, he's obviously preparing for a high output. So I just think so many things make Jorge Masvidal better than a plus 360 price. So you have to take it.
Well, Burns was pretty smart in his last fight, I thought. Anyway, all right, main event. Alex Pereira, Israel Adesanya. Adesanya's still a slight favorite, I see here. So, dude, how about Izzy, man? Like, I just hope he gets this one back as a fan. Nothing against Alex Pereira. I know, he fights 3 times and then he gets to fight for the belt. My boy's got 8 straight wins. Get out of here with that, But anyway, it's well known. He's beaten Adesanya twice in kickboxing, once in MMA. But Israel Adesanya to me is unequivocally one of the greatest fighters of all time. He doesn't hesitate to hop up to light heavyweight, fight Yan. Then he comes back, defends the title 3 times after that. Vettori, Whitaker for a second time, then Cannonier. I just hope he gets this back for his own legacy. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't love this little injection into his legacy. But, dude, Pereira's ferocious. I'm excited for it. Cody, why don't you start us out, and Belal, you could take us home.
So the entire time that I've been thinking about this fight is I've been thinking about the fact that Izzy won 23 minutes of the last fight. The last time I did that was when I picked Kamaru Usman to beat Leon Edwards. So I kind of think you have to throw that out the window. This is a different fight. Every time these guys fight, it seemingly gets better for Alex Pereira. The second kickboxing fight was better than the first for him. The second MMA fight, I think, could probably be better than the first. I was going into this entire week thinking that it was going to be Izzy for all the reasons that anyone would think. He's a technician. He's one of the fighters who is an outlier. You really can't compare him to the stat of 4 of 16 of the immediate rematches, right? So I don't think he really fits that statistic. But what has really been changing my mind is hearing a lot of the discourse around him from the media. I was listening to John Morgan's podcast when he had him, Oscar Willis, and Ken Hathaway on there, and they were talking about Izzy's energy during media day, and that it just seemed very short, very kind of butthurt, and that just to me doesn't feel like Izzy. He feels like a guy who needs to be carefree and go in there without any demons. So I think that Pereira just has his number. So I gotta go with Alex Pereira here, and I would expect that line is going to move even closer, as the fight goes, get closer to the fight. So I'd be interested to see if that's not a pick 'em by the time they close the doors. But I think Pereira is going to get it done. I think that he gets it done easier than he did the last time. So if you were going to ask me for method round of victory, I think he KOs Izzy in the second round this Saturday.
Bully B, and still or new?
Like you said, I want Izzy to win just because, it's kind of like that Max Holloway moment when he fought Volkanovski. You're like, if he loses this one, where does he go? What does he do? And it just sucks because Izzy's the man. You always want to watch Izzy fight. He's one of the biggest stars in the UFC, and losing this fight, it's like, where do you go from here? You already beat basically everybody else underneath you. Do you have to go to a different weight class now? But man, if I'm looking for ways that he could win, for me, it'd have to be like adding in wrestling into your game. Cause you fought him 3 times straight kickboxing and you lost. I know a couple of times they were very close most of the time, but you just leave that one opening. And Pereira, he showed even in the 5th round, he carries that power with him late. Even if he's tired, he can freaking put you out. So it's like, do you have to be perfect for a straight 20, 25 minutes on your feet? Or do you add in a couple takedowns here and there? And we saw what he did to him on the ground. He was close to almost finishing him on the ground with good ground and pound. And I just don't know if he had enough time to perfect his wrestling to be able to do that, because it takes years to get great wrestling for MMA. And, you know, I know Adesanya said, oh, I went for a couple takedowns my last fight. It's only going to get better this fight. And it's like, they weren't great takedowns that you got him with. A couple of the takedowns you got were because Pereira made a couple of bad moves, and it's easier to learn defensive wrestling than it is offensive wrestling. And if you're Adesanya and you want to make this a straight wrestling match, like, your body's not used to that. Your muscles aren't used to doing straight wrestling in an MMA fight. So you're not going to have the conditioning for that. So I do think it'll be on the feet again. And yeah, I'm with Cody. I think it will be pretty much the same outcome. I think Pereira is going to end up finishing him again. And I do think it'll be finished like earlier, because I know he's saying all the right things, saying mentally, I'm good. He knows how to take losses. He's all right. But, like, saying it and, like, what really goes on through your head, like, this guy's beat you 3 times. There has to be something in your head where you're like, man, what's going on? What's wrong? And we saw it the last fight, you know, because he didn't have the same type of walkout that he usually does. And he was the champion that last fight. You know, he didn't have the same type of confidence, because obviously he was thinking about those 2 losses in kickboxing, and it did take an effect. So now, losing that fight, it's going to take effect in this, because, you know, he didn't have his family fly out the last fight. I don't know if he has them out this fight, but he made some changes the last fight, and that was when he was champion and he was on a roll. Now losing that fight, I don't know where his head's going to be at.
Both guys.
Well, I got to ask, just to jump in there. So, Bully, if you had fought Luque 4 months after your first fight, don't you think that your head was in a completely different space for the rematch than Izzy's is now? I mean, and that's not even thinking about the kickboxing and, you know, the past before that. Like, yes, Izzy is one of the most mentally strong and, you know, combat sports minded guys in the game, but that's got to play in his head at least sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. I think that all guys, anybody who loses, they should definitely get a different fight before going straight into that rematch, because you do want that confidence. You do want to get that win, that nasty taste out of your mouth. So he's trying to get that nasty taste out of his mouth with the same type of meal that he just had. And I don't think it's going to be a good night for him.
So as I was saying, both guys on the same page there. Yeah, tough for me a lot of that makes good sense. Bully, your mind is pretty sharp considering no nutrition for you today. And he's about to go work out again as soon as we wrap.
Dude, I think it actually makes you a little bit sharper. You know, a lot of people, when they say they do intermittent fasting and stuff like that, they say that I do think I'm on point a lot more than usual.
Dude, it's very interesting. I used to work a job where it was very long days, sort of running my own business. And there were days where I wouldn't consume food and I felt sharp. And some days where you eat a meal in the middle of the day and you're sort of fatigued. And, you know, so I'm an old man. That was before intermittent fasting was even well known, you know? Anyway.
You did it before the freaking world did it.
Exactly. Hey. So, but one thing about George Masvidal, the long hair doesn't always mean George Masvidal isn't ready to go working hard, right? If he had that old school crew cut from back in the day, you know, and he's showing up in Mexico training with Yair Rodriguez, right? I mean, like, come on, dude. I think he's going to be ready to go.
Yeah. Like I said, he looks ready to go, and he knows. Like, when you know your back's against the wall and this is your moment, like, how much money could come if you win this fight and how much money you could lose if you lose this fight. And I think that the UFC gave him this matchup because they know that it's a winnable fight for him. I don't think that if you're the UFC, you want him to win. Like, the UFC doesn't want Gilbert Burns to win. Obviously, they want Masvidal to win, and they picked the right matchup for him. Like, they want to give Masvidal me because they know what would happen. So I think they gave him like a Burns because they knew what he's capable of doing to Burns.
I love it.
Well, and I gotta wonder what happened to Cage side, because Jorge said that there's a restraining order with Kobe against him. So does that mean Kobe can't show up for this fight? Like, it's in Miami. Like, is he thinking about showing up for this fight? And he obviously can't if he's got a restraining order against Jorge, who's fighting. So
Dana White, doesn't Dana White supersede the law?
Right? He probably has to get the bloody nose section. It's like 250 feet. So he has to go up there and then make an appearance and then run. Or make an appearance for the prelims and then leave before Masvidal gets there.
That's where he picks up those girls that he uses for the MyBookie ads, is in the nosebleeds.
Hey, before we get out of here, real quick, I didn't see a line on Chris Curtis, Kelvin Gastelum. Is there something? Is that fight is still on? Unless I'm like, how about that one?
Yeah,
dude. Yeah,
What's that? I'm curious if you
want
see
the
a line, but I didn't
guess.
No, I don't. I don't bet mixed martial arts anymore. I could.
Not
I
anymore,
think it has
yeah.
to be. I think it has to be pretty close.
Yeah, it's
paper.
Gastelum minus 130, Curtis plus 115.
Yeah.
Oh, Gastelum was a favorite.
Yeah.
I think that's gonna be another one of those fights that I can't circle, man, because both those guys are so cool. They're so chill, and I see both of them here, and they both look good. Gastelum, he changed his camp. He's training with Henry Cejudo now, so I'm excited to see what kind of mindset he comes with, because Henry is a great game planner, and he always comes with a different fight mindset than a lot of these guys, and he changes a lot of guys that go down there and train with him. And I know Gastelum said that he loved training with them, and he was coming back from an injury, losing his teeth the last fight, and had a couple of bad years. And then, but Curtis, he's been on point ever since being in the UFC. Besides that one hiccup with Hermanson, he's been looking dominant. He's been getting better every single fight, and he looks stronger every time I see him. Like, he's putting muscle on every other day.
Good stuff, Jay Henry. We appreciate you, brother. Always
appreciate you, brother.
All right, boys. Well, let's get out of here. Bully, I'll see you later and ask you the tough questions that I'm not going to ask in front of the audience. You could be sure. I want to shout out Ian Parker, the Duck, for giving me a ride down here to Miami of ESPN and PFL fame. We appreciate you, Duck. That guy dropped some knowledge. It made me want to start betting on MMA. Anyway, for our director, Cody Merrow, and the great Belal Muhammad, my name is Jason Anik. We appreciate you all. We'll see you next Thursday on Remember the Show. Peace.
Peace.
Peace.